televangelist and founder of the Synagogue Church of All Nations, has left many saddened all over the continent. We're now joined via Zoom by entrepreneur and philanthropist Dr. Tim Tebeila. Thank you so much, Dr. Tim, for joining us here on SABC News, sir.
Thank you very much.
As a start, I mean, we're still trying to get to the bottom of, what happened to TB Joshua. Obviously, the reports that are coming in at this time are not complete. We're not getting full information. And I wonder at this time if there's anything that you can possibly share with us about the passing of the televangelist, of the pastor. What do you have that you're able to confirm or tell us at this time?
Okay, what I'll just read through the message that the church has issued out for the world, which start by saying, surely the sovereign Lord does nothing without revealing his plan to his servant, the prophet. That's Amos 3:7. On Saturday, the 5th June 2021, Prophet TB Joshua spoke during the Emmanuel TV Partners meeting. The time for everything, the time for everything, time to come here for prayer and time to return home after the service. So God has taken his servant, Prophet TB Joshua, home as it should be by divine will. His last moment on earth were spent in the service of God. This is what he was born for and lived for and died for. As Prophet TB Joshua says, the greatest way to use life is to spend it on something that will outlive it. Prophet TB Joshua leaves a legacy of service and sacrifice to God's kingdom that is living for generations yet unborn. The Synagogue Church of All Nations and Emmanuel TV family appreciate your love, prayers, and concern at this time and request a time of privacy for the family.
All right, so sorry, Dr. Tim, we do have the statement. We don't necessarily need it to be read to us. We do indeed have that statement that you're reading to us. My question was really, and I suppose then you can't answer it in terms of, and I actually then wonder why we can't really get the answer, clarity at this time about the cause of death as to, what caused the death of TB Joshua, but that's okay. We'll certainly try to follow up on that. At this time, talk to us about, your interactions then with TB Joshua, how he should be remembered, and what you can tell us then about the pastor. Obviously, many who attended his church or were perhaps congregants or those who supported on the sidelines, they know him as the pastor who would share, whether it was messages of the church or the Bible or words of encouragement. But what more are you able to tell us then about TB Joshua?
Well, I've been knowing TB Joshua for the past 25 years or more. And we, when I encountered with him, I went to his church when there was not even a building, it was even a shack. And then we later on built the church, and from there we started Emmanuel Television. And I can simply say that I found Prophet TB Joshua being someone who was extremely very generous and who has touched so many people, so many lives in the world. And he has touched mine too, in particular, because I spend most of my time with him. The last time I spoke to him was on Friday, in fact, last Friday. And we spoke for quite some time, and I was talking to him about the COVID, that when it finished, and then when it came to an end, I will be coming to see him. And now, suddenly this morning when I wake up, I got a call from the church telling me about this bad news, and I asked the church, the family, as to what happened. Basically, you could see on television, on the Emmanuel TV, the 390, that he was preaching yesterday in the church. He was basically praying for the sick. He prayed for the sick for 3 hours, basically. When he left praying for the sick, he said the words that there is time to come and there is time to leave. And he left the podium. When he left the podium, he went to the house where he lives to rest, obviously, after preaching. And he was obviously offered something to drink after being exhausted. And he was asked if he's fine. He said nothing is wrong. But now suddenly he couldn't even, before he could even take the water and drink, he just fell asleep, and he fell asleep forever. He never wake up. He had no any illness. He had no any sign of any kind that he will be, there is something in his body. He was 100% perfect and super.
Yeah. You know, looking at the outcry on social media, I mean, I've obviously been taking a look at some of the actions, particularly coming from his own country, but also he had quite a strong following here in South Africa. I mean, do you think, you know, having been the leader of this church for so long, and what he stood for, and obviously people were more, you know, sort of linked to him as a person and as a brand. One wonders if, you know, the church will still sort of stand after his passing. What are your thoughts on that? I'm sure you know if there was someone that he was perhaps mentoring, or if there was anyone that you know the people of the church had gotten used to over time. I mean, what can you tell us? And I mean, I suppose it is early at this time to kind of analyze or try to analyze the future of the church, but I think it is important of a conversation to have.
Yeah, well, it is not early. The prophet has left a great legacy in the church. He has imparted a lot of his disciples. And if you look at the church, basically, there's not one person who is not able to perform or preach what a prophet has been preaching. Yeah. So he has taught all his disciples. He has taught the family, the family, the daughters, the children, and the daughters-in-law, all those children that are in the church. Yeah. All of them, they can really do what prophet has been doing. So he has got a clear program and a clear line as to what's going to happen in his departure. There's no vacuum. There won't be any problems in terms of the church. The church will run as it was and as it is, as we speak right now. Yeah. There won't be any changes because of his absence, because he has already passed the legacy and passed all whatever he has been doing in the church, everything that has been doing in the church. Everybody, most of the people in the church don't know what to do. He has left that kind of teaching to everybody.
Now, you mentioned, you know, that you've known him for many years, 20-something years, as you pointed out earlier on in our conversation. And something that was very important to us as South Africans, and still sits with some of those families who were certainly affected, was that very bad incident in 2014 where a building owned by his church collapsed. And as you know, many South Africans are dying in that building, and some bodies, in fact, not having been brought back to South Africa. How did he feel about that? You know, was there any sense of, I'll use the word guilt, for lack of a better word. Was there any sense of guilt or, you know, a terrible feeling in terms of what took place on that day? I mean, I'm sure you've also, as many of us have, you know, watched that video of that building just sort of collapsing really to the ground like that. And I wonder, from someone who has had many conversations, I suppose, over the years with the late pastor, how he felt about what took place there.
Well, immediately after the building collapsed, I think I was one of the first to be in the church. I left South Africa immediately, and I was in the church to participate in assisting the families who were affected. Yeah. And that thing has touched him so much that basically remember, a prophet, as a prophet, he's got two things. One is prophet, and the other side is a human being. So he was extremely highly affected as a human being. And he needed someone next to him to be able to console and another thing. But at the same time, he knew that he has got responsibility of making those families who are affected to also feel comfort. And he has made it upon himself to assist all those families who were affected. But at the same time, what happened to the church collapse is exactly what happened today. He never knew that this will happen. And as you will know, that the building was 100% perfect. There was no defect in the building. The building was well structured. It was, if you follow the news, that there was some sort of elements of sabotage and elements of bombs, or what they call detonations, which were planted and unknown in the church, and that thing affected him a lot. And he has to ask also the people like ourselves to be with him all the time. I spent a month with him, trying to make sure that we make everything sorted, but we also thank the government of South Africa. They played a great role in assisting the church and in assisting the families. So those things happened to everybody else, but it was not because of it, but it affected me a lot as a human being. He carried on to assist those families up to today.
Yeah, and talk to us then as we wrap up our conversations about plans. I'm sure those have started being spoken about by the family, yourselves, people who are close to him, plans for funeral, memorial service and so forth. I mean, is there any preliminary sort of planning or anything that you can tell us at this time about what to expect this coming week?
We can't tell anything right now. We are still busy. In fact, today, there's a day to inform the public. We did that through Emmanuel TV. And then we're going to be, the whole week, going to spend discussing the issues of the funeral and other matters. So that's why we requested also the space and privacy within the family, that let's give them chance to have time to plan their things. And because you know that prophet had the whole world, and that he was, he was behind them and they were behind him. So we have to plan things accordingly. So when the time arrives, we'll let you know as to what are the plans.
All right, Dr. Tebeila, thank you so very much for speaking to us and giving us your time here, and certainly condolences to you as someone who was quite close with the pastor. Thank you, sir.
God bless you.